here we are in the garage. Dun 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 dun. I want to talk to you about a common problem that we see in the manifestation world, law of attraction, law of assumption world, a form of spiritual bypassing that in all likelihood you are guilty of. I know that I have been guilty of in the past and am still guilty of, and I'm trying to clean up. I want to talk about ways that we can clean it up and ways so we can see it more clearly in this video so you can feel better and not as guilty about feeling in general, because that's hugely important. If you don't know who I am, my name's Tim. I've written multiple books on this subject, talking about manifestation from deep psychological angles, linking it with stress management and practical psychology. In the description, you will find a link to one of my books, The Law of Attraction Simplified, for free. That book is probably unlike most Law of Attraction type of books you've ever read. There's also a link there if you want to speak to me and have an optional short consultation. A big problem in this space that virtually nobody talks about is the subtle guilting, and sometimes not so subtle guilting. Sometimes it's more like gaslighting from both ourselves, us gaslighting ourselves, and others. If you go onto Reddit, for instance, or into the comments on a place like YouTube, for feeling sad or scared or ashamed. And there's a lot of people in this space who interpret something like feeling is the secret by, that great Neville line, as meaning that if you have negative feelings, quote unquote, negative feelings like sadness, shame, anger, then it means your manifestation, your desires are not going to happen. And that's just such a load of horse shit. If you grasp that, you can turn off this video right now. That's just such a load of bullshit. But I understand, and I've been there myself plenty of times before. And it's why, first of all, it's why I say you really want to accept your emotions as they come up as they are and not see them as like a negative thing, but as part of living and being okay with whatever comes up is being inherently okay and peaceful and fine. And that the peace that passeth understanding is still there. God is still there, if you want to use a even more religious term, spiritual term, which I like to do when it comes to getting deep like this. God is still there, even if I feel scared, fearful, angry, ashamed, or whatever feeling I might have. God is still there. God is still there. And there is nothing inherently wrong with me because I feel a certain way. And any of the teachers, let alone shitheads commenting that there is something wrong, are probably misleading you. And the issue that we see so often, and this is where no one else basically talks about this, is that many of the famous LOA teachers or semi-famous LOA teachers basically gaslight you into saying that you should feel a certain way all the time. And I'm here to tell you that for at least the vast majority of us, there is no way you are going to feel a certain way all the time. Ain't going to fucking happen. And if you feel like you've done that you do feel a certain way all the time, I'm glad for you, but there's also a very good chance that you have disassociated. I like to say most of this LOA stuff is practical. The best spiritual teachers are not LOA teachers. They're the more deeper, mystical, nothing is wrong with you teachers. And their link with LOA is often dubious, and they often laugh at LOA teachings because of all this dumb horse shit. Like, you have to always feel a certain way. as if that's possible for most of us, mere mortals. And as if there's something wrong with us, mere mortals, for having feelings. But in the LOA community, people suppress their emotions. And they think if I'm not high vibe, if I'm not in a certain state, I'm not going to get what I want. And the deeper teaching is you already have what you want. You just need to recognize it. Even with that shame or that guilt or that sadness or that fear being there. You can always embody truth. You can always be free because you always are free already on some deep level. And I don't mean this to guilt you, quite the opposite. I mean this to free you from the fucking bullshit trap that these, now I'm going to start using really harsh language, motherfuckers start telling you, and so many teachers are guilty of telling you. And I'm not going to name names, I don't think, in this video, but there is a reason that I criticize a lot of these famous LOA teachers, let alone all the all the shitheads on Reddit and YouTube commenting and stuff like that, and YouTube creators. There's a reason, guys. Believe it or not, I'm a pretty calm dude. But I also have been in this space longer than most people and am fucking practical. I care about practically helping myself and others. And a lot of these LOA teachers are not going to help you do that, let alone the fucking creators who don't know what the heck they're talking about most of the time. It's bypassing to be like, to say I have to be high vibe, I have to suppress my emotions, I have to feel a certain way in order to be okay. My whole thing is you're okay right now. And if you want something, great. Go and do it. Do what you need to do to get it in a good way. Knowing that you are great, perfect, fine as you are. I mentioned this to a couple of people this last week that I've spoken to on, on the phone or Zoom. Like, Emile Coué, the greatest law of attraction teacher of the last, 150 years, in my opinion, he says something very important. First of all, I made a video a week or two ago where, I paraphrased it, saying, like, if you expect something to happen, it will happen. And this is what Neville always said, too. If you expect something to happen, if you feel like it's already happened, it will happen. That's, to large extent, true. But what Coué usually said is that if you expect that you are going to do something, you will do it. If you expect you're going to do something, you will do it. That's a much more accurate line. Because too many people in the community think, oh, I'm just going to expect something is going to happen, and then they don't take any action. They don't actually go do it. And that makes it so actually their expectation doesn't end up materializing, demonstrating, manifesting, whatever language you want to use. See, these concepts, these LOA concepts, generally speaking, again, are practical. And if you want something, you go and get it. You go do it. Action's an inherent part of this process. And online, too much of the talk, and even some of the great teachers, they make it seem like you just assume something and then, you just lay back and it's going to happen. And that's not usually the case. You usually have to go get it. You have to go do something, do it. That's the bridge of incidents. The bridge of incidents involves a massive amount of action. And it's not necessarily like, like I intend something, right? And then I go get it. It's not like I'm going to go get a sandwich and then just go across the street and buy a sandwich. That's a very simple manifestation. Shout out to Matt Fury for giving that great kind of manifestation example. A more complicated manifestation might be like, I want a high-level job, and live in a certain apartment in my a very fancy apartment in my city, right? And you intend that, and then you take massive action to get that. And by taking massive action, seemingly inadvertently, you might find a way to get an interview that would not have happened if you just by logically were taking logical steps and didn't have that assumption that you were going to get that job. You understand what I'm saying? See, A doesn't always lead directly to Z. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. That's a lot of distance. And so getting from A, I intend to get this new job and have this wonderful apartment, to Z, that bridge of incidents involves a lot of action. And when you're at A, B, or C with that intention and just starting out, it's not enough to just sit back waiting to get to Z. You got to do a bunch of stuff, and you're not going to know what exactly you're going to be doing. You can't plan it out exactly ahead of time, but you just got to kind of go step by step. That's why there's that great E.L. Doctorow line. I believe it was him. I'm paraphrasing here. Like, he's talking about writing a book, but this goes for anything. If you're driving and you're, in a dark night and it's cloudy and it's, there's a lot of fog and you're on, it's a cliffside drive, you can only drive as far at a time as the headlights go. You can only see 100 feet or 100 yards in front of you with your headlights. And you have to drive that way maybe for an hour or 2 or 3 to get home. But you can get home. But you can only go from A to B to C to D slowly. And you're not going to be able to drive and get there if you're just, you start driving and you're like, oh, I want to be home now. And you stop the car. No, you got to drive each one of those 100 yards at a time, 100 yard after 100 yard after 100 yard after 100 yard. That's how this shit works. Usually, at least. When you're doing 100 yard after 100 yard, 100 yard, 100 yard, you think you're going to be feeling good, high vibe the whole time? You think you're not going to have anger, fear, sadness, shame, etc.? Of course not. You're fucking human. There's nothing wrong with you. Yet, subtly, people in space are always saying there's something wrong with you. You have to be high vibe. You have to do it. No. Think I want this to happen and I'm going to make it happen. This is going to happen and I'm going to do it. That's good manifestation advice. Very practical advice. That's Emile Coué. All this other stuff, sure. As I was saying in the video the other day about Coué's pupil, Marie Kaufmann. I'll put a video above because that's a very, very important video. Not many people watch that. You should. Marie Kaufmann, who is Coué's pupil, and Coué, they didn't just talk the talk. They walked the walk. They were actively helping heal dozens and dozens and dozens of people at a time, each day usually. In Coué's case, he was often seeing well over 100 people a day, sometimes several hundred people a day. Day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Kaufmann was with children and adults all the time. Years on end. That's walking the walk. And the results they got, which most people would see as miraculous, like, having people heal from tuberculosis, for instance, and paralysis, that's from walking the walk. That's very different than just reciting biblical scripture or interpreting esoteric advice and making it sound really cool to a large audience. I'm not saying that those kind of teachers were not walking the walk as well. In some ways, they certainly were. And I love a lot of those teachers. But they were not walking the walk in the same way that Coué and Kaufmann were. And I'm not saying that we all can be like Kaufmann or Coué, but we can aspire more to that practical application, which really, as I said in the video the other day, is just an example of being the quote-unquote good Christian. Walking that walk, as opposed to all these far-out Christian-sounding teachings, New Thought teachings that are much more mystical and esoteric, talking about Jesus and all this stuff. Great. You know who was really doing that stuff? Coué and Kaufmann. They were doing the stuff that Jesus did 2,000 years ago. They were making the sick rise. Literally. And yet people want to hear the flashy stuff. Oh, just stay high vibe. Do you think if your kid's sick, you're just going to stay high vibe? You think if you just, lost your job, or, are in financial straits, or, lost a partner, your partner broke up with you and doesn't want to talk to you, think you're just going to stay high vibe? Live in the end. A to Z is a long path usually, even if it's just a short matter of days. Like if you're, if you're flying this morning, you can, be in New York, and then in the evening you can be in Dubai. But to get from New York this morning to Dubai tonight, a lot's got to happen. That's A to Z too. It's a short period of time, but still A to Z. You got to do a lot of stuff still to just get from New York to Dubai. But then you're in Dubai tonight. This is the real shit. If you want help, you know where to find me. Link is in the description. Because the way I just explained this, who else is talking to you about it in this way? I'm just being honest. This is how it actually works for most of us in real life. You can fall for the bells and whistles, feel guilty and ashamed when it doesn't work for you. But I'm here to tell you that that's the result that most people get. Because it's some kind of glamorized, marketable version of how this stuff actually works psychologically. Or you could say in a grounded spiritual way. Or you could say in a simple, good Christian way. Do unto others as you would do unto yourself. That's the real meat and potatoes of this stuff. That's why I'm in the garage talking to you right now. So I hope it was helpful. There will be another video below that probably will be helpful as well if you want to check that out. Until next time, be good.